Hey, everybody, welcome back to Middles and Apologetics. Tonight we're presenting to you an answer for John Watson. The gospel truth: was Jesus a liar? Or was he just mistaken? Oh no, Mr. Bill. The world might never know. Okay, not being a smart aleck. This is the third time I've attempted this. I've got a new computer, new screen, new everything's kind of a little bit updated here. So I'm still working out some of the kinks and the bugs and all of those kind of things out of it. So far, it looks okay. It looks like we're doing better. Now, this is the presentation. Every Tuesday night, John Watson does his The Gospel Truth, which means everything he says is the gospel truth. No, it's not. I'm not trying to be mean, but no. Um, he gives lip service. Oh, I might be wrong. I might be wrong. But if you just show me from the Bible where I'm wrong, um, it's much like the best way to describe it is this: put a glass in front of a person. Is it half full of water or half empty? And some people argue to the death that it's half full, and they will never tell you, yeah, well, it's also half empty. It just doesn't commute in the brain that there are two sides things and there's two different perspectives. One is the correct one is not. Not concerning the glass of water, of course, but the idea that there's two perspectives. There's two ways to see different things. And trying to get them to see outside their paradigm and to see something is goes against their very nature. So we're going to be dealing with John Watson's gospel truth here and going through some of that and just presenting some things. Now, for me to begin with and to lay it out, I want to establish my position. And this is the position of N.T. Wright and many other top scholars. We're not talking about preachers. We're not talking about Church of Christ preachers. We're talking about top theologians and scholars. Uh, for the record, uh, he never claims to be a scholar, John Watson. He never claims to be a theologian. I, on the other hand, and Sam, we've got Bachelor of Arts, I do, in theology. We have Masters in theology. I have an MDiv in theology. I know he's got something else too. And I'm working, and I think he is too, working on his PhD in theology. So that comes with it 3 years of Greek, 3 or 4 years of Hebrew, where we actually learn the languages and the grammar and continue to learn and to grow from other people. That's something that he's never done. He doesn't understand how it works, even though you explain it to him, of course. But anything the future says, we're garbage. Now, in this video, he sounds reasonable to begin with, but once he finds me on here, he starts calling us hyper futurists. And the problem with that, of course, is there's no such thing as a hyper futurist. You can't label hyper onto that futurist because the futurist, the belief, the premillennial view that I hold to, the post-trib premill, it's been around for 2,000 years. It hasn't been altered. It hasn't been changed. It hasn't been, exaggerated or anything else like this. So there's no way to label it as hyper futurism because we're not going to the extremes. Now, I would label like dispensationalist, some forms of that, some other things as hyper because it's adding to it and trying to be more than what it really is or should be. But for me to start, um, I'm going to be going through, and I want you to look at this, and I'm going to present this real simple. In our position, all of the Olivet was fulfilled in 70 AD. You got that? The timing remarks that you find in the Gospels, all of those things refer to 70 AD. And that's what we're going to do is go through some of those scriptures uh, with him, and is what he wants to do and try to prove this all happened in that generation. Well, using those same scriptures, I'm going to show how, from a different perspective. For example, in Matthew, he writes to a Hebrew audience. So he's going to use Hebrew idioms that the people are familiar with and they know about. Luke is speaking to a Greek audience. He would not be using those things. He speaks more plainly. So you'll find two different verses. Well, I should say it's two identical verses, but just stated differently because of who they're being written to and by who they're written to, either by Matthew or Luke, but they're from the same story. In other words, all the stories, of course, come from the same source, Jesus, when he was here for those 3.5 years. So Luke is presenting some of the same stories as Mark and as Matthew, but just wording it different based on their audience. Now, the big problem with the Olivet, of course, you mentioned comes from Mark 13, uh, Luke 21, and Matthew 24. Well, the problem is a lot of the things that are said in Matthew 24 and have all attributed to the Olivet and put in there. You can go to Luke 21. You can find some of the same comments that you find in Matthew 24. You will find in Luke's gospel that he places them before he comes into Jerusalem. You find them spread out in 17, 18. I think even go back to 16. You can find comments that are spread out that you find in Matthew 24, all condensed together, but in Luke, they're spread out and as if they weren't spoken on the same day. So there's some study that needs to happen for that whole picture to be brought into view. Now, in the Olivet, of course, what John is going to claim is that it promises a second coming. And where that starts with, and I'm using this as a precursor to head him off of the path, so to speak. And I can show you this from N.T. Wright. I can bring up his stuff. Um, there's a lot of sources I can do, but for time wise, I don't think I'm going to. This might be a little bit long enough as it is. So we go to Matthew 24. And of course, all preterists will sit there and tell you a lot of things that Jesus said and some of the things that presents are quotes from the Old Testament. That's a given. There's a lot of things that they said that is quoted from the Old Testament. Matthew 24 is not any different. For instance, where is it? I know. All the tribes of the earth were mourned. That's from Zechariah 12:14. So he employs a lot of. But here's the thing. Then will appear in the heavens sign of the Son of Man, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Of course, they don't believe that you will actually see him, but they say this is talking about the second coming. Now, here's our problem. When we go to look at the verse, where does it say it's coming from? In the vision of the night I continued to watch, and saw one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. Ooh, let's look at that from a different English Standard Version, which is more closer to the Greek than, and then, paraphrase like NIV or NLT. Here it is. I saw in the night visions, behold, with clouds of heaven there came one like a Son of Man, and he came to the Ancient of Days as one presented before him. So where is the Ancient of Days? Well, let's look at this chapter a little closer. As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient Days took the seat. This is in heaven, right? Thousands and thousands served, 10,000 stood before him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. This is quoted in Revelations 20. Let's see if they catch that. Yes, here it is. And I saw the dead and great standing before the throne, and there was open books, and one of the books was the life, and the dead were judged according to the deeds as recorded in the books. So that's where it's basically quoted that the books were opened. So this is a picture of being in heaven, the Ancient of Days. So that is God, and that's talking about God. Then we come down here and says, "The saw the night vision. Behold, with clouds of heaven, there came one like the Son of Man, and he came to the Ancient of Days." So he is coming to the Father and was presented before him. The idea is that he wasn't there with the Father. Number one. That's what that implies. Number two is he's coming to the Ancient of Days. He's not coming from the Ancient of Days, and he's not being presented from him. Now, I've searched other preterist explanation of this that doesn't work, where they change the grammatical and try to make it sound, it's not even worth mentioning, I guess. Okay, so here he is. He's coming in. What happens when he comes before the Father? To him was given a dominion and a glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. So now, when he ascends into heaven, he's given the throne. He's given dominion. He is now the one who exercises judgment. And where do I get this idea from? Let's go to John chapter 5. Stay with me. We'll get to John Watson, but I want you to follow through these scriptures here a little bit. Uh, For as the Father has life in himself, so he's granted the Son also to have life in himself. And he has given him authority to execute judgment because he is the Son of Man. There's your reference, of course, to 7:13. He is identifying himself as the Son of Man who's been given all authority because he sat down at the right hand of the Father. What do you mean? Because he sat down at the right hand, then he is the one who will send judgment. Let me go to Matthew 26. We'll look at this again. Come on, baby. Be nice to me. I can do it this way. My mouse has been acting up a little bit. Okay, so here is Jesus before Caiaphas. But I tell you from now on, you will see the Son of Man, and again, directly quoting Daniel 7, which means Caiaphas would have understood this to be a Messiah. The Son of Man is the one who would sit on the throne, so that makes him equal with God. So a messianic prophecy. He is now seated at the right hand of power because he came to the Father and was given a kingdom and a dominion, and coming on clouds of heaven. That means that he gets to send the judgment. So you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power. You will see the Son of Man ascend into heaven, and you'll know he's seated at the right hand because you will see the judgment come in 70 AD in this generation. That is coming on clouds of heaven. That's what that is. He rides on a swift cloud. Several verses imply this clouds of heaven thing is where God is coming. Then the high priest tore his robe. Why? Because he uttered blasphemy. Blasphemy is to think of yourself equal with God, as he did here. He's calling himself the Son of Man. He's sitting on his throne. Therefore, he's being uh, charged with being blasphemy. But get that, Son of Man coming in clouds. Anytime you see that reference or anything, it's going back to that. It's talking about his ascension, the Son of Man being betrayed. I mean, it goes on and on and on, all the way through Matthew 24, 25. And any of these passages that he's going to bring up, we do not argue that some standing there will be alive when he comes. Well, John lived until about 96, 98. We know, until the time of John. That is what the testimony of the other church fathers. Now, here's the thing. Um, let's put this in logic into perspective here with the full preterist position. They say it had to happen in that generation. So it had to happen within that generation. Could have happened 10 years later, could have had 15 years later. It had to happen within that generation. So they look through history and they find 70 AD when Jerusalem was destroyed. They wouldn't know that from scriptures, what year it was. They could only know that from reading Josephus. So they read Josephus and understand, oh, it was destroyed in 70 AD. There is the proof that the Olivet is fulfilled. We've got Barnabas, Clement, and some others, but mostly Barnabas who said the Olivet was all fulfilled in 70 AD. We have even Eusebius, 325 years later, says this was all to fulfill the words of our Savior, everything that happened in 70 AD, especially concerning the Olivet discourse was all fulfilled. They all agree on that point. The early church fathers believed that it was all fulfilled in that generation. There's no argument and discussion there. So timing in this regard, it's a given. We're not going to argue timing. I'm not going to go back and sit there and say, well, generation doesn't really mean a generation, on and on. But those are the arguments you get from people who are not learned and who are not educated, who haven't really studied. For any scholar who's worth his salt would recognize that, would say that. So I use this as the background and then to go into what he says and to deal with what he says. And boy, he gets kind of mean and upset with me here a little bit. Um, but we're going to go through that. Now, my comment here on the side, you can see that I mentioned about Wright. I put up the quote that Wright put in there about that the Olivet never talks about a second coming. It is not about a second coming because the disciples didn't even understand that he was leaving and dying and leaving or anything else close. Why would they assume that he's talking about a second coming? Why would he speak code words to us? Sorry, they didn't understand it. So Jesus said nothing about his second coming. Everything you find in Matthew 24 and 25 is about his first coming, and because he ascended, he's going to send judgment. Okay, so let's get into John's words.
And Rick Brown, good to see you. And Pat Cobb. Hello, Pat Cobb, as well. So, was Jesus a liar? Was he just misinformed? Did he just not have a clue what was going on to them today? But that's really not the case. So, did Jesus lie? Well, let's look at a couple things here.
Okay, so the accusation by John Watson and others because we reject a 70 AD fulfillment, and the ignorance of some that claim that this generation is not about that generation, it's the future, and those weak arguments that are presented and have been dismissed and debunked for a long time. He's responding to those. So no, we in our thing in what our presentation of our case, we are never ever saying that Jesus lied or made a mistake or anything else like that. We hold on to it. Now, some people, of course, can't reconcile it, but the idea though is John and them said, "We know the scriptures. We know what it says. Therefore, it says talks about the second coming. Therefore, it had to happen in that generation." Well, you've never proved that the Olivet talks about a second coming. It talks about the promise of a judgment, the days of vengeance that was coming, but it never says anything about a second coming. Son of Man coming on clouds is a quote from the Old Testament. It is about his ascension, and because he ascended, he sat down, was given the kingdom, and he sent judgment from his position of authority. What we read in scriptures, that's what it's about. I can't make it any more clear.
So, this is one of the verses that we go to, and there's a good reason why. Now, I'll show you this, and then we'll look at several other verses. But in Matthew chapter 10, here Jesus says, hey, I'm coming back in your lifetime. Now, don't think, if you know much about the Bible, don't think that the only...
Yeah, see, he's never said, I'm coming back. The coming of the Son of Man never replies a second coming. It just doesn't.
place in the Bible that talks about the return of Jesus is the Olivet Discourse. There's plenty of them.
But it never talks about the return of Jesus. None of it. It is not about that. That's misunderstood for their part.
Whenever they persecute you in one city, flee to the next, for truly I say to you, you will not finish going through the cities of Israel until the Son of Man comes. Now, the context of this...
The context of that, because it's going to happen before the apostles go through all the cities and everything else, that places it in that generation. That places this coming a thing of judgment, and it happens within their lifetime. No real futurist has got his salt will argue that. But John Watson refuses to deal with me and keeps going to these other weak-kneed preachers who don't really know their scriptures.
Is this idea of persecution. And he was telling them, listen, you got a hard row to hoe. This is what he was talking about. This is Matthew 10, where I'm at, if you're just joining us. And he says, you're going to have a tough time, and you're going to have persecution that you must face. But, excuse me, when you have that persecution coming on you, people are persecuting, just go to the next city. He says, you won't even finish going from city to city.
Okay, so we admit we're not going to argue any further on that. Let's move on. Let's see if we can get
until
ahead.
The Son of Man comes. Now, wait a minute. This is one that John Welch, by the way, I got to grab my Bible phone. And, I'm just doing this for fun, right? But when they persecute you in just one moment, either Jesus was a liar, and I don't think he was, but maybe it's possible that Jesus simply didn't know that. What's the simplest way to put this? He was...
Okay, he's talking, if you look at the video, he's talking about no man knows the day or the hour. Jesus doesn't know the hour. He emptied himself. Yes, he emptied himself. He gave up the prerogative to act and to be and act in a divine manner is what it theologically is understood. Jesus had the divine nature within him, so he was therefore he was all powerful. He was all knowing. All of those things. He could be everywhere at one time. Omniscient. Those things were there, but he divested of himself the ability or whatever you might want to call it, but didn't hold on to his divinity. He didn't grab it and say, I got to act like I'm divine. He became fully man, acted like a man, lived as a man, and gave up his rights to act and live as God. And so when it says he emptied himself, that is all that we're talking about here is what he did was become a man and fully embrace what it meant to be a man and to suffer and as a man and to be tempted in all like manners as every man is.
Operating basically on the auspices of the Holy Spirit. Was he deity when he was on the earth? Well, no question about that.
Okay, no question about that. So he was divine, divine nature, Colossians 2:9. In Christ dwells the divine nature bodily. Bodily? Yeah, in bodily. So when he was here, was he not in bodily with the divine nature in him? Yes. Um, let's move on.
That he's the son of Yahweh. But check this out. So Philippians chapter 2, here starting at verse 1, listen to this. Therefore, if there is any encouragement of Christ, if there is any consolation of love, if there is any fellowship of the Spirit, if there is any affection and compassion, make my joy complete by being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose. Okay, so listen to what he's getting ready to say here. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regard one another as more important than yourselves. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. Have this attitude, now listen to this, have this attitude in yourselves, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped.
That word there in the Greek is to hold on to, to cling to, as if he can't let it go. It's like having his hands open is the idea there, that it could be taken away from, but it wasn't taken away from him. He just didn't have to. I'm God. You got to all know I'm God. I'm God. I'm deity. He didn't do that. He didn't have to hold on to it and fight for it. That's all that passage
You
is
might be
talking
saying,
about.
oh, well, you're saying that Jesus wasn't God. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. John chapter 1 verse 1 says he was in the beginning. I have no problem with that. So don't even try it, right? Anyway, guys, Tim and Roy and Rick and Pat and Rick and Pat and Rick and Roy and Rick and Steve and Rick and Bill. Okay, they try to just look for any last little microscopic crack. And they try to pour water in it and freeze it and make it bigger. You get the idea. It's ridiculous. Actually, it's ridiculous for them. It's not ridiculous for us. It's kind of a badge of honor for us.
What he goes on to say is that because we persecute him, therefore it's a badge of honor that they get persecuted for uh, in Jesus' name. But I'm sorry, we persecute Mormons for their stupidity. It doesn't mean it's a badge of honor for them or any of the cult. Jimmy Jones, David Koresh. I'm sorry. They came up with stupid, strange theologies. They preached it, teached it. People believed it, sucked it in. They paid the ultimate price for following after that destructive heresies like people do here in Full Preterism.
So the Welch debate team. Listen to this, guys. Welch debate team. Thank you. Highly exalted him and bestowed upon him the name which is above every name. Hi, Bobby Allison, by the way. Great to see you. And even good to see you, Stephen. Hope all things are well with everybody. So Jesus emptied himself of this glory. I'm going to get to this point. I get distracted by the comments on the side and people showing up. And I can't see everybody, but I can see some when people make comments. So I'm glad for that. Make all the comments you want. Was Jesus deity? Yes, he was. Was he God? Yes, he was. Did he empty himself? Yep, he did. That leads us to a huge theological study, but we're not getting into that tonight. Did Jesus know what was going to happen? I say he did.
Okay, one of the arguments here, did he know what's going to happen? Yes, he knew what was going to happen. He warned them, tear down this temple in 3 days I will raise up. He knows he was going to his death, and he knew that he would be raised again. Did he know his second coming? Now let me clarify and look at something. He comes like a thief in the night, and that's what Peter and the others talk about. When Jesus comes in a thief in the night, just to make it very clear, the Olivet says that when he comes, there will be signs and warning signs that he is coming. No man knows the day or the hour, right? But you'll see these signs coming. When Peter uses that like a thief in the night, and others talk about it, thieves do not give signs and warnings that they are coming. They don't prepare people for the season. Oh, yes, I'll be there in the summertime. Sometime in the summertime, everybody, I'm going to come rob your house. Or in the springtime. They don't do that. There is no signs. There's no warning. They don't sit there and say, hey, when you see the house burning across the street, no, I'm going to be robbing yours next. They don't do that. So, no. When they say like a thief in the night, it means unheralded, without signs, nothing. You will have absolutely no warning that he is coming. That precludes 70 AD from right there from being the second coming, as Peter and the others taught it, because he comes like a thief. Um,
Did he know everything? Um. Now, when was he supposed to come? He had already come the first time. That's his first parousia, if you want to call it that.
okay, first parousia. Let's go real quick to the word parousia. I'm going to show you something, and this is absolutely critical. So we're talking about parousia, um, which is a noun. Parousia. Did I spell the word right? Okay. It's used 24 times, 16 times to talk about Christ. Then a couple of times it talks about Timothy, or excuse me, yeah, Titus, who comes, and Stephanus when they come. In other words, they are absent, they're not there, but when they come, it's their parousia. And so that when they come, it's even used in second, look at this, Second Thessalonians 2:8, by the appearance of his coming, but then the next verse 2:9, the one who is coming in accord, the Antichrist or the wicked one, the lawless one that is coming. That's considered a parousia, his coming. And of course, that's not sending an army. uh, but here's the kicker: Second Thessalonians 2:8. It says the appearance of his coming. So at his coming, he appears. This is an appearance. It says it right there by the appearance of his coming. Um, what is that word? Well, real quick, parousia is used in two different ways. Let's be clear about this. It is a technical term, and it means to be present to arrive into a situation. The arrival of the owner who can deal with the situation, or a technical term with reference to the visit of a king or someone official. It's a royal visit. He's been absent. Now he comes to the city to deal with something that he can take care of, and he alone has to deal with. So the king comes, he is now present after being absent. This is how it's used in the Roman world. Parousia is used to ease text of expression for the royal visit of a king or an emperor. They all, thus the personal presence when he personally comes. He uses this all the way. So the second coming is the personal presence of Jesus himself who comes down. Acts 1, 1 Thessalonians 4, and others. Now, there's two ways it's being used. One is the personal arrival and the advent of Christ himself, but the other as a presence, in one verse, it talks about Paul, his first appearance, but it talks about Paul's presence. His bodily presence is weak, but when he's absent, he acts like a tough man. We know that verse that's being used. You can probably pull it up here. Um, I won't take time with it. So he's got that going on. Two ways it's used in the Old Testament under Matthew. That's the way it was used. The coming in the Greek Septuagint. It talked about when an army came. That was the parousia of God who came in judgment and delivered that judgment. Um, that's the way it's used in Maccabees and a couple other places. And Josephus used it in his to talk about an army comes in the presence as a representation of God in judgment. The other one we go to right now is Thessalonians. Now, 2:8. He uses both terms together here. And that second term is epiphania, the appearing. So this is what is epiphany? By the appearing or by the manifestation. Manifestation means to do what? To be made visible. Casper the ghost, if he manifests, that means now he becomes visible where people in this realm can't see him. He becomes visible. It's a glorious display because it's visible that people can say, "Oh wow, that's cool looking. That's what it is. But epiphany is only used 6 times. All times it's talking about Christ coming. It's used as a noun, and it suggests an appearing that builds on the Greek epi, on the situation, uh, emphasizing the fitting impact of Christ's visible appearance will have on the entire world. All who will see it be saved and unsaved in the New Testament. It occurs 6 times, always used Christ coming, once of his first coming in 2 Timothy 1:10. So let's actually, they're right there, 2 Timothy 1:10. Let's look at this verse. What does it say? And which now has been manifested through the appearing of our Savior Christ Jesus, who abolished death and brought life and immortality to light through the gospel. So this is his first coming they're talking about. So this was the appearing. He appeared the first time, did he not? Okay, let's go to Hebrews. A lot of my point here, of course, is to show the appearing is the nature of how he was to come. And full preterists deny it. They claim that he appeared invisible, which of course doesn't work, or that they say the things science Josephus describes was the appearing. But in Hebrews 9:28, there's no way to get around it. So, preterists accuse us of playing with time statements and dismissing them and saying that's not. So when we bring up these nature arguments to the full preterists, they do exactly what they accuse us of doing with time statements. They twist them around. And they, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Well, how can you sit there and accuse us of doing that to time statements? And we tell you, no, we're not. No, we're not. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Let's go to the scriptures. But as it is, he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. So at his death, he appeared once for all at that end. That's when he appeared, and his sacrifice that was a visible manifestation. So just as he came that first time to bear the sins of many, he will appear a second time. I'm sorry, plain logic. You talk about, John, about the plain meaning of scriptures, being able to understand it. Here's the plain meaning. He appeared the first time, he will appear a second time. You cannot say that it is invisible. Can't do it. To say that he is an invisible coming in 70 AD would be a lie because it says right here, he will appear a second time. He appeared the first time, and now he'll appear the second time. First time, now the second time. So, to claim anything else would be a lie.
His first coming. There's only two. There's not three parasias, three comings, three advents of the Lord. This is not there. You're not going to find that anywhere in the scriptures.
What he's confusing with is the idea of the coming of the Son of Man. That's not a parousia. That is not a coming of God himself or Jesus himself. This is the coming of the judgment that comes from him. So if you get that basic thing screwed up, then your idea, well, then there's three, because if he came in 78, that's two. And then if he comes in some future, that's three. Okay, and that's where we draw the line. The one in 70 AD was not to be a physical manifestation, a visible display of God coming down and standing on the Mount of Olives or being appearing to anybody else. It was a Roman army that comes to dish out judgment against Jerusalem and Israel. And it's Jerusalem's the most severe persecution that Jerusalem had ever experienced happened in AD 70.
So, what did he say? Well, he said, okay, I'm coming back. So did he know something? Well, of course.
No, he never said he's coming back.
In this parallel version, it's pretty neat when people give me free Bibles. And this is okay. What about Beck? This is kind of first time I've seen this. Let me assure you, there are some standing here. Listen to this. This is actually pretty good. Will never taste death till they see the Son of Man coming to rule as king. Wow. That goes totally against.
And it's actually a bad version because to rule as king, they understood him to come back onto the earth to rule as king. That's what the disciples asked him in Acts 1. Are you at this time coming to rule over the kingdoms and restore Israel to its greatness that it was once before? They didn't understand that he was even then that he had to leave.
What the Hyper Futurists teach.
See, now he goes on to what the Hyper Futurists teach. Now, this is where I start to go, John, no, 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 no. Don't start saying that we all teach this, because we don't. And that's what he implies, is that everybody teaches this. Everybody, and he knows all of what we believe, but he doesn't even know Orthodox Christianity and what it's taught for 2,000 years. All he's ever learned is what he's heard from, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but uneducated people.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, that he's going to hand over the kingdom. He's not going to rule. Apparently, ever. I guess he only has a short time to do it. I don't know. I never did
Listen,
understand their chain of logic on that.
see, he just admitted it. John, you just admitted, I could never understand their train of logic. That's because the whole paradigm that the futurists hold on to is complete opposite of full preterism. And because you haven't studied enough and don't know what we say and teach, um, that's what you say. I don't understand. And we're sitting there trying to tell you, here's how to understand what we're saying. But he won't stop and listen. He is so defensive about his position and being right that he won't even take the time to listen to somebody. He'll try to listen to these other idiots, but he won't listen to a real scholar or real theologian. He won't read anything from us. Let me go to First Corinthians, and I'm going to show you what we're talking about here. And you see him dance around with the wordings, um, because in their paradigm, Jesus never gives up. He rules forever, all and all and all. But it says here, then at his coming, those who belong to Christ. So at his coming, the first fruit are raised and all that. Then comes the end, when he delivers the kingdom of God to the Father. So at his second coming comes the end. They argue that till they're blue in the face. But they won't argue for this. When he delivers the kingdom of God to the Father after destroying every rule and every authority and every power. What does it mean that he delivers the kingdom to God? You remember he's given all authority in Daniel 7:13? Well, when all enemies are put at his feet, um, and the last enemy, which is physical death, is destroyed, meaning all people have been judged. Those that are righteous and have been raised in the resurrection have the redeemed body. They're all living in a glorified, immortal, imperishable body. That is when death is destroyed, because everybody's immortal. They're no longer subject to death. So physical death comes to its end. And that happens, so he's going to reign until all of the enemies, everybody that fights against it, the last enemy of God that he will destroy in the resurrection is the redemption of the body, is physical death, when all of the saints are in heaven in bodies and they can no longer die because they have been raised immortal and imperishable. That's what we teach. So when we go down here, look at this. Um, for the parish right here, brothers and sisters can inherit, right? Be able to tell you, we don't inherit it. We shall not all sleep, which means we will all not physically die, but we shall be changed in a moment, twinkling of an eye. The trumpet will sound, and the dead, the fallen asleep, will be raised imperishable. Imperishable means they no longer grow old. And we who are alive here, we shall be changed. For this perishable, now they stick in their body. Why? Because that's what it's referring to. They don't put it in the Greek. He didn't put it in there, um, but it's implied by the grammatical structure. For this perishable must put on the imperishable, and the mortal must put on the immortal. What is immortal and what's imperishable? Well, let's go back up. You already talked about that. How are the dead raised? How are those who have fallen asleep raised? With what kind of body do they come? So when they come with a body. So when they are raised, so how has it happened? So what you sow does not come to life unless it dies. So the body dies, it goes into the ground. So what you sow is not the body that is to be. You're putting in the perishable one, the old crappy one, right? And then it's raised. So it is with the resurrection dead. What is sown, what goes in the ground is perishable. What is raised is imperishable. See, it's been changed. It comes up out of the ground, imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, but it is raised up out of that ground from where it was sowed in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It's a natural body, but it's raised a spiritual body. That spiritual body means a body that's designed by God. It is remade so that it's not this physical body that's subject to sin, death, perishability, mortality, subject to death. It's not. um, any of those things. It's now glorified. It's made awesome. How do I know he's talking about the body? Let's go back up here for a second. Um, Look at this. Let me figure out, remember where this was at. Looking at this thing. Okay, here. And what you sow is not the body that is be like a bare kernel, perhaps wheat or something, or some other grain. So what you sow is not the body that is going to be like a kernel of wheat or anything else. When you put a kernel of wheat or thing, that's the seed, right? But what comes out? It's a plant. It's not the seed again, it's the plant. But God gives it a body as He has chosen. So the body goes in, and He gives it a body as He has chosen. Not we, it's not made by man, it's not born from a woman, it's been changed. So the body is completely changed. It is still the same body, but its whole substance is changed. And to each kind of seed, its own body. Here's the clue: for not all flesh is the same. The body and his flesh. So he's talking about the flesh. So our bodies, flesh is not the same. It's all going to be different. There's one kind for humans, another for animals, birds, another for fish. There are heavenly bodies and there are earthly bodies, but the glory of the heavenly is of one kind, and the glory of the earthly is of another. So this is the sun has one glory. The body that was in the ground had one type, but raised, it is going to be glorious. It's going to shine like stars in heaven. That is going to be so it is with the resurrection of what is sown is perishable, what is raised, it'll be glorious in what is raised.
Um. So anyway, we'll keep on here. Matthew 16, verse 27, 28. The Son of Man is about to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and will then repay every man according to his deeds.
That is again
But it
judgment
is.
language.
So essentially, what Stephen is saying is you should never listen to anybody. When a
Okay.
theologian, and
Okay.
verse 27, 28, the Son of Man is a.
I made some comments here and I'll explain it before it gets into it. Think about this. And here's the comment, and he destroyed it all. And I will explain it to you, John, if you actually try to listen to this, which I doubt you'll ever do. When we go, if we're accused of murder, what lawyer do we want? One that has been lots of experience, don't we? Somebody who's well versed in the law, and that's who we want us to defend us. We don't want a novice, a first year law student. When we go in for brain surgery, who are you going to get your work from? Somebody who's experienced and knows what they're doing, or are you going to get it from a first year med student? Who do you want? You want the best. So why would we go to uneducated people when it comes to our theology? We don't go to Mormons. We don't go to David Koresh and his followers. We wouldn't go to Jimmy Jones and his followers. We wouldn't go to Jehovah's Witnesses or any other thing, right? It's all false. We don't go to them. Same thing's true. We wouldn't go to Phil Olstein or Joel Olstein to get our theology from. Sorry, we don't do it. We should be getting our theology or learning our theology from scholars and theologians. So when you put 100 of them together on a topic and they all talk about it, and they all come together and they say, this is what we believe the Bible talks about. And there's 100 of us. We all agree. Well, we go back and we study it and we look at it with the same tools that they have. And we go, yeah, I agree. But if you don't have the same tools, and you can't sit in judgment of them, you can't sit there and tell N.T. Wright or anybody else who's doctorate degrees in theology and sit there and tell them you're wrong. Why? Because it's exactly what John said a little while ago. I do not understand that train of thought. I don't understand how they get to that point. It totally confuses me. And it's because you don't have the education to sit with the big boy. Sorry, John.
About to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and will then repay every man according to his deeds. And then he says in verse 28, you're going to see this happen in your lifetime.
And we agree. See, I sit there and say, John, we agree. They saw it in their lifetime. They saw him die. They saw him ascend into heaven. From that, they saw the judgment come on Jerusalem, the vindication of the saints. All the Christians fled Jerusalem. They had warnings. So it was Jerusalem and Israel that was destroyed in 70 AD.
So, okay. Let's see here. When a theologian and scholar disagrees, should we not give listen as to why?
When a theologian and scholar disagrees to what you say, should we not listen to what they're saying and understand what they're saying? Mm-hmm.
Um, you go to a lawyer to defend you in court. You go to a brain surgeon. This is the dumbest argument I have ever heard. Stephen, sorry, but it is.
Because you didn't understand it. You didn't see its whole logical conclusion. You based it on something. You didn't ask me questions about it. You didn't ask me to clarify. You just jumped the gun on what you thought it meant. And that's why I word things the way I do sometimes. Let you hang yourself with your own stupidity.
So essentially, what Stephen is saying is you should never listen to anybody that is not a certified theologian and scholar.
Never said that. See, never said that you shouldn't listen. I, I specifically said if you're in trouble, what do? You go to the best. If you want answers, you go to the best. I didn't say anything about asking, did I? Never once. See how they twist. That's how you twisted that whole thing, John, because of your own thinking patterns.
Well, let's see. That exempts Jesus, pretty much all of the apostles.
And that is absolutely ludicrous. Theologians and scholars, almost every one of those apostles, disciples, knew Aramaic, they knew Greek, and more than likely, most of them know Hebrew. You follow that? There's your three languages. They knew them. They knew them. In a Jewish community, Paul studied and knew the Old Testament, memorized the first five books, had it on memory, and any good Jew memorized a good portion of the Torah. Um, so were they considered scholars? You better believe they were. And they sat with Jesus. Did Jesus teach them 3 years of education with Jesus? Were they scholars when they got done? You better believe it. You better believe they were absolute. Luke, physician, he wrote. John, he learned, he wrote. Um, they wrote scriptures. How did they do it? You think they didn't understand what they were writing? That they were just Holy Spirit was told them, "Oh, write this, write this." No, it came and flows out of their heart. So yes, they were scholars and they were learned men.
All of the disciples. So anyway,
All of the disciples. Yes, I just told you to explain that, but watch what he does here. He dismisses me as,
whatever, Stephen. Talk to the hand.
but yeah, he won't even try to understand.
I love your soul, my friend, but that just does not make sense.
See, there he goes again. He admitted it. That does not make sense. But he responded as if he understood what I was saying. But he does not make sense. So instead of talking to me and ask me, can you please explain better of what you said? I put down my phone number 5 times and said, call me. If it doesn't make sense to you, call me. I will talk to you. But he didn't. Instead, he got madder and madder and madder and madder. He kept using me as the hyper futurist says, and he was dead wrong.
Paul said, "When you read, you can understand." So there you go. You just what Stephen and so many other people don't get is the simple fact that this information was given to them. Jesus even actually asked them, "Okay, do you understand?" And they said, "Yeah, we get it."
They didn't get it. They couldn't even figure out that he was going to die.
He did not correct them. He knew that they got it.
Oh.
Anyway, so it's really not a good argument. And I know you want to say, well, they were inspired by the Holy Spirit. Paul said, when you read, you can understand. If that's the case, then nobody can understand today.
This is a ludicrous comment from you, John. Ludicrous, totally ludicrous. If we have the Holy Spirit today, then we can understand. He gives us understanding. But like in everything, he gave teachers to the church to help explain things. He gave us learned people to help explain things and to teach us all things. Uh, want me to back that up? Here, we don't expect the Holy Spirit to teach us absolutely everything. The Holy Spirit's not going to teach you Greek. He's not going to teach you Hebrew. But what does it say? Now you are the body of Christ, individual members of it. And God has appointed in the church, first of all, apostles, prophets, teachers, miracles, gift of healing, and all the other things. But he gave teachers. Why did he give teachers? Are all teachers? Do all workers? He gave teachers in order to build up the church and to equip them. That's why he gave shepherds and pastors. That's why he appointed Timothy. Timothy, hold on to what I gave you. Teach it to them.
Because there's no Holy Spirit inspiration, and there's no apostles around to impart the gifts of the Spirit. So that just means we're all out of luck. So what Stephen is actually teaching is universalism.
And that's such a lie. Universal. Everybody just automatically knows. Everybody just goes to heaven. Baloney, John. That's a lie. You deliberately put something into my mouth. You know that's not true. That was a lie. And you were not man enough to allow me to respond. You couldn't even call me up and give me a chance to respond. You kept up with these kind of things, and you kept it up, and you kept it up. No. Sorry.
He's teaching that nobody can understand it, and it's too difficult. And
nobody ever said it's too hard to understand. It's too difficult. Put the time in to learn. Because you've never done it, John, you don't know. And that's why you say, I don't understand. I don't understand what he's saying. This just confuses me. Because you never learned in the first place. Before you pretend to be a teacher on here and try to tell everybody what you think the gospel truth is, you should have learned for yourself. But you didn't.
And because of that, God's not, I'm sure this is where he would go with his universalism, is that God is not.
And of course, he wants to mischaracterize me and accuse me of that because anything that I write over here, he's got to tear it down somehow. So he can't tear down what I say, so he tries to tear me down as a person. So if I'm labeled by him as a universalist, then people automatically dismiss me and they won't listen to anything I say. And John, that's a low blow. That is just so low, it's not even funny. So, me and Sam, we put it to him. Hey, John, let's have a debate. Let's have a sit down talk. You bring whoever you want to. Me and Sam will sit there and sit down with you. We'll bring whatever. And let's have a real sit down and discuss everything. Not a debate necessarily, but a sit down discussion between all of us and really look at things and get some people in there to intermediate even and really go through it. But John won't do that. Finish up your Welsh thing and everything else. Then let's see, John, if you come back and are willing to deal with me and Sam and actually do a roundtable discussion and sit in, iron through the vocabulary, iron things out all the way through, and really look through it and discuss with each other instead of doing it an audience. Really have the discussion between the two people. Writers have never done that. They love the debate where they present their position, but they don't allow people to really challenge what they're saying and work it through mentally and actually learn. So if you're really interested, John, in doing something right, do that.
Don't mean he's going to destroy everybody because they can't understand the Bible. Why even have the Bible at all is what Stephen is arguing.
And that's such trash talk, John, such trash. Of course, I know people can read it and understand it. You get better at it the more you understand the languages, obviously, because you said, like I showed you, the Son of Man coming on clouds of heaven. He's coming to the Father. He's being presented before him. But you don't even catch that. And I've talked with you about it. You ignored all of that context. And you dissed it, dismiss it, and play your games.
So, I don't know. I think that's a failed argument, Stephen. Okay, so let's keep on going. Why did Jesus say that this was about to take place? They think Jesus was a liar. At the very least, he was.
I'll keep moving forward.
What did Jesus say? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What did Jesus say here? So Jesus says, verse 34, ready for this? Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until verses of Matthew chapter 24.
I've agreed with you.
The following rest of Matthew 24 and 20. Whatsoever.
Matthew 26.
Yeah. And anymore. But these hyper futurists
there you go.
Go nuts. They go bananas when confronted with the truth. They can't stand it. And they
I'm just so I can't handle what your truth is. Oh boy, poor me. I'm just so confused. I'm just so wow. Here I am, John. You weren't willing to talk with me.
They go bananas. But he says
Sorry.
here, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away.
Okay, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. What does that mean? Let's look at something here. I might have skipped over part of it, but let me show you something. Uh, I'll do it this way. Uh, heaven, earth, pass away. How many times did you say heaven and earth? Truly I tell you, until the heaven and earth disappear. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words, heaven and earth will pass away. See that? Heaven and earth will pass away. It is, and then heaven and earth will pass. Where's that? Will disappear, but my words will never disappear. Do you see that? Over and over again, it says the heavens and earth will pass away. This is not code language for the temple. And that's what they want you to believe. This is code word because the temple was called heaven and earth, therefore he's using code word. And it's not. Here's the proof. The heavens will disappear with rule, destroyed by fire, and the earth, and everything done on it. Done in it. No, I'm sorry. Like a thief, he comes. The heavens and earth will pass with a terrible noise. Sorry, it's not talking about that. Here's why. Luke 16:17. It is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one dot of the law to become void. Matthew 5:18 is where he's reading from. For I tell you truly, until heaven and earth pass away, not a single jot nor a stroke of a pen will disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Okay, do you see those two verses? Those are 16, 17. Those are six sister verses. Then 21:33, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. What he's getting across is, and this is the perspective he's never seen, never admitted, goes over his head, John's head. Heaven and earth is not talking about the law of Moses and the temple. Would you say it is easier for the law of Moses to pass away than for a single stroke of pen to drop out of the law of Moses? Um, okay, I had to pause for a second. We're back. Um, Easier for heaven and earth to pass away. He's talking about literally. It is easier for all of creation to cease to exist than for God's promises that He made in the covenant with man, for Him to abrogate them, for them to be destroyed, for them to not happen, not be fulfilled. God makes a promise; it's going to be fulfilled. It cannot. That promise just can't go away. So every promises that was made in the law of Moses concerning his covenant had to be fulfilled. Every term had to be fulfilled. So it'd be easier for heavens and earth, all of the world, to cease to exist for God to go against his own word. That's what's being said here. But he's not gonna grasp that. Let me show you one other thing. And this is whoops, let's do it this way. Um, Luke 24:44. What's to be fulfilled, people? What is all to be fulfilled? Everything, every prophecy that's found in the law of the prophets? No. Then he said to them, these are the words I spoke to you when I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of the Moses must be fulfilled. So you see this in John and Luke, and especially in Matthew. This was done in order to fulfill what the prophet said. This was done to fulfill. Thus it is written that Christ should suffer on the third day. It was all fulfilled based on the prophecy. What is this? I think it'll come to there. Uh, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. That's repeated all over the place. Um, for what is written about me is reaching its fulfillment. Do you see that? Everything the prophets have written about the Son of Man will be fulfilled. Let the word sink in you. The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men. He must be killed on the third day and raised to life. All of these things are prophecies. This is what is written: the Christ will suffer and rise from the dead the third day, because you will not abandon my soul in Hades, what God spoken of by the prophets. The idea is that everything that was prophesied concerning Jesus is what's going to be fulfilled. And what do they say? Everything's supposed to be fulfilled. And that's not what was ever said. That's Matthew, but Luke explains it. He makes it very clear. These are the words I spoke with you, that while I was still with you, that everything written about me, the law of Moses and the prophets, must be fulfilled. And he came to fulfill all the terms of the covenant. All the promises of the covenant had to be fulfilled. And Jesus did it when he died on the cross. That, of course, gets into a different topic.
Let me ask you something about this. What's heaven and earth here? If there's a hyper futurist watching, then please describe what heaven and earth is here, and make it flow with what is going on in the context.
I just did. And I set that up deliberately because you just heard him. 24:44, Luke 16:17. It is easier for the heavens and the earth to pass away than for God's words not to be fulfilled. Unless you want to argue that he can just change his word anytime he wants to, that they don't have to be filled. But good luck on that.
Next. Let's move to the next verse. I want you to see something here. Matthew chapter 26. In verse 64, and we've been through these passages, grace that with an answer, but he does. And he says here, nevertheless, I tell you, hereafter, from now on, apo arti, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of...
Sitting at the right hand with power and authority. Sitting at the right hand with power and authority and coming on clouds. I've explained that to you before.
What did Jesus say to this guy? These guys. What did he say to them? He says, you're going to see me. Oh, well, they didn't really see him. I love the explanation. Well, this was Acts chapter 7 when Stephen was stoned to death.
You see the stupidity now that he goes into? Because that's all he knows. Or what the stupid, uneducated people say. That's all he can respond to. He can't actually respond to true theological, scholarly works that have been done to explain this. He doesn't, because he doesn't know it. He doesn't study those things.
And Caiaphas was, I love that. Sit and come at the same time. Love it. First explanation.
Okay, now he's going to read my comment here.
Oh, guys. All right, everybody, look at Stephen's last comment. He says, how does he sit and come at the same time? Read in parentheses next to that. Desperation.
No. See, John, you missed it. How does he sit and come at the same time? Both of those things are what? Metaphors for something else. Because he sits at the right hand, that is a metaphor that he shares power with God. Coming in clouds is a metaphor for coming in judgment, the coming of judgment from him. They're metaphors. You didn't catch that. And you don't understand it.
That's all that is. How does he sit and come at the same time? Love it. Okay, so apparently Caiaphas died. All agree exactly, and they don't. Why is that? Because the hyper-futurists are looking for a way to explain their doctrine, and just keep perpetuating a 2,000-year-old lie. These guys,
a 2,000-year-old lie. Barnabas lied. John lied because he never said anything about coming afterwards. After AD 70, I mean, all these men continued to lie. Barnabas, Clement, Ignatius, Polycarp, they all lied. You see what he has to do, because they have held to it from the beginning that he had not come in 70 AD, that it was still future. The Antichrist was still future, according to Irenaeus, and the list goes on and on. But they all lied. That's what you have to believe. You have to actually believe that right after 70 AD, all these pastors in the other churches that were in pastoring in the church before AD 70 and after AD, all of a sudden now became all liars. Barnabas had to become a liar. Do you follow that logic that he's trying to sit there? That Kool-Aid he wants you to drink?
Guys are teaching the same thing that was taught in the first century during the writing of the scriptures. So I don't want to hear it. I was there, and I saw my error, and I turned from it.
In other words, you turned to deception, just like Eve did after hearing it. You get that? He heard it, and realized his error. Um, wow, because he didn't have the truth to begin with. You follow that? If you have given the truth to begin with, you don't ever leave it. Because he didn't have the truth, he had crap city for theology. He goes into another crap theology and thinks now that's the truth.
Oh yeah, right. You think I'm mean? Oh sure. You keep dreaming. Um, so anyway, the hyper futurist typical reaction. So
Yeah, typical reaction. See, he continually hyper. Doesn't work.
this man, they were standing how many feet apart? And Jesus looks at him and says, "You're going to see me." You know, he would have been outraged. He would have said, you know, he's standing up, he's reading from this, and he says,
All right, it's been an hour. I'm going to cut it off here and let it go just like this. But you get the whole idea of what he did. I know that there was more.
and you cannot expect it to happen in your lifetime. It's just that when the Son of Man comes, idioms and so forth of the ancient Jews.
He doesn't understand him. He wouldn't know how to identify him. If laid out on a platter and put in front of him because he's the one who knows. All right, I am going to stop. We won't go any further than that. But here it is. Everybody who listens, everybody pays attention to this. Go to John and say, "Let's come on, John. When you're done with the Welch debate, hey, let's have the discussion. Let's have the full discussion once and all between the futurists and the full predators. Let's sit down, have a round table, have mediators, whatever you want to do it, however, but have a discussion with each other, not a debate back and forth while we're trying to convince an audience, but actually communicate back and forth with one another and look through it, study through it, call it a big Bible study. I don't care. But really to look through it and see it for what it really is supposed to be. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Appreciate you hanging around for this 1 hour, 7 minutes. You guys have a good night, and we'll catch you again later. If I figure out how to